Hello and welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. If we hop into the Wayback Machine and travel to 2018, we will find me reviewing a delightful tabletop skirmish game called Burrows and Badgers. Look, here's my original first edition hardback rulebook, beautifully illustrated by Gary Chalk, the man whose artwork illuminated my childhood adventures through Hero Quest, Talisman, Dungeon Quest and more. Burrows and Badgers is one of those miniatures agnostic tabletop games where there is no starter set. You just grab the book, grab whatever miniatures you like, although there is an official range from Oathsworn Miniatures that I highly recommend, and then you start your adventures. And it's a game that is right up my street. A small-scale skirmish game in which anthropomorphic animals battle for supremacy in a whimsical wilderness inspired by the English countryside. Think Redwall and you're already home. I have enjoyed Burrows and Badgers ever since I discovered it, and it even made the top 50 list of my favourite games of all time. But I admit, recently it hasn't been getting the table time it deserves, and I haven't kept up with painting my little rats, bats, rabbits and badgers. Sometimes I am so swamped with projects, something has to give, and in recent years that something has been Burrows and Badgers. But then something happened that inspired me to return once more to the idyllic pastoral beauty of Northymbra, an all-new second edition of the Burrows and Badgers core rules book. It's already available to pre-order from the publisher Osprey Games, plus all your favourite game retailers. It's due for a retail release on the 24th of April 2025. I have been sent a review copy to check out, and it is beautiful. Just look at this. I am a sucker for a high quality hardback rules book, and this fits the bill. Admittedly, this is smaller than I like. The dimensions are approximately 9.5 inches by 6.5 inches, making it even smaller than the first edition rules. I do understand the benefits of a small format. It's convenient to slip into a bag to take to your local games event, and it doesn't take up a lot of real estate on your tabletop during gameplay, but there's something about larger format books that I really enjoy. Large books give the artwork room to breathe, and you can really appreciate the colour photography. But that aside, this is a lovely book, and the page count is twice that of the first edition. The reason for that is because the rules have been reworked and revised, and a huge amount of additional content has been added. New magic types, extra equipment, a wider selection of skills, more scenarios, improved campaign rules, the list goes on. Sadly, a new edition also means new art, and this time around Northymbra has been brought to life by Peter Johnson. Now, I say sadly, but that is a little unfair. Peter's artwork is excellent. This cover artwork is a joy and sums up the concept of the game universe perfectly. But I always thought Gary Chalk's artwork was the perfect companion to Burrows and Badgers. After all, he was responsible for the illustrations for much of the Redwall series. His black and white line illustrations felt like something you would find in an old children's book, and effortlessly captured the nostalgia and whimsy that imbues this game. Because this game is The Wind in the Willows, Redwall, Tales of the Riverbank, Watership Down, The Animals of Farthing Wood. It is all those stories I grew up with. All those stories that were absorbed into the core of my being at the same time that I was playing board games illustrated by Gary Chalk. And so the loss of Gary's artwork here does sadden me, but I can see why. For this new edition, brighter, more colourful art was important. It really does make the presentation more vibrant, and you feel like you are holding a book of modern rules that can compete with the big tabletop titles, rather than holding a dusty old tome you found in an attic toy chest. Overall, it is a nice book, packed with full colour artwork and photographs, a surprisingly small amount of lore, a robust updated core rule set, and an extensively revised and expanded campaign system. In this video, I am going to very quickly talk about some of the core game concepts for anyone new to the system, and as I go I will also briefly touch on some of the major changes from first edition. There will be timestamps in the video description so you can skip to the information you need. The first thing you are going to do is build your warband, always a really fun part of any skirmish game. And it all starts by selecting an allegiance. In first edition, you could choose from royalists, rogues, free beasts and wild folks, and your selection granted you a special starting bonus, while also defining which type of den you could use as your base of operations for a campaign and what kinds of magic you had access to. The rules for allegiance have been greatly expanded in 2nd edition, and the choice is now far more important. For a start, there are 10 allegiances to choose from, including the original 4 plus cool stuff like witch hunters. I used to run a royalist team as corrupt witch hunters who would hunt down and murder magic users. So yeah, guess I'm running a witch hunters faction now. Your choice of allegiance defines your starting bonus, starting den upgrades, an archetype which defines which kinds of skill upgrades the team can have, what magic they can use, a support quest that grants special rewards every time you complete it during a battle, and a selection of rare starting equipment you can buy. It's just a more complete and fleshed out system now. With your allegiance selected, it's time to pick your crew. You start with 350 pennies to create a team that must have at least 2 characters in it, but no more than 10. Each character has a size that also defines its starting level and how much you are going to have to spend to employ them. Small creatures are on 30mm bases and are level 1. Medium creatures are on 30mm bases and are level 2. Large creatures are on 40mm bases and are level 3, and massive creatures are on 50mm bases and are level 4. You can have up to 8 large models and 6 massive models. Additionally, any characters defined as rare are limited to 1 instance per team, so no armies of tortoises, which is a shame. You must buy at least 1 piece of equipment for each character, usually a weapon. Then you pick 1 character to be your leader, who gains an additional free skill and gains 1 level on 1 statistic of your choice. You also pick a second in command who gains a free skill and is absolutely ready to stab your leader in the back in a power grab, if you play the game like I do. A really fun thing is you can make any character in your team a magic user. This doesn't cost you any additional pennies, you simply pick a magical archetype for that character to use. However, you then have to pick spells for that magic user, and for each spell they learn, they gain the delicate and weak traits, and the traits stack. If you decide you want a magic user with 3 spells, they will also be Delicate 3, which means they will take 3 more wounds when they get hit, and they will be Weak 3, which means they will inflict 3 less wounds every time they hit someone else. And that is just such a lovely, neat way to incorporate magic users. It's risk and reward, a cool balancing mechanism that lets every character have access to magic, but at a cost. Oh, and about that magic. 1st edition had 6 magic types, and for the 2nd edition that has been doubled to 12. New options include fate weaving, illusionism, and yes, necromancy. My witch hunters are going to be so busy. Burrows and Badgers is a campaign-driven system. The idea is you build a team and then you play a series of linked battles against other teams, gradually leveling up your characters, acquiring new team members, buying equipment, and gaining skills. And in all aspects of the campaign system, the 2nd edition of the game offers more. In addition to expanded species, magic and equipment lists, there are far more skills to develop and really personalise your characters, and there are now 20 different scenarios to play, compared to 1st edition's 8. Burrows and Badgers has been out in the wild since 2018, and clearly it's picked up some tricks and learned a lot in that time, becoming an altogether more impressive beast. The core rules, those you employ when your crew is on the table and the dice hit the mat, have also undergone countless tweaks and enhancements. For example, fate points, which can be spent to gain various advantages, used to be a team resource that any character could access, but now each character has their own fate point store. This prevents players from spamming fate on their most powerful characters and also creates opportunities for beautiful narrative flourishes. For example, your lowly mouse royalist somehow bests a much stronger foe, gaining a fate point in the process. That fate now becomes part of that character's own story, their personal journey. The mouse is forging their own legend, which makes you care so much more, especially when they get stepped on by a fox. Additionally, the use of fate points has changed. Rather than being a resource you can use to roll additional dice when making tests, they now allow rerolls on tests, or can be used to activate some skills, purchase mercenaries, or seize the initiative, which we will discuss in a moment. But despite all those changes, too many to list in detail, the core concepts are as streamlined and straightforward as always, which is a good thing. Each character has 9 statistics, and each is assigned a type of polyhedral dice. For example, my toady adventurer isn't too fast, so he has a move of d6, but he's very good at hiding, so he has a concealment of d10, and the whole game revolves around that central conceit, that stats are dice, and almost all outcomes are resolved with a dice-off. A dice-off simply involves each player rolling the relevant dice and comparing the results. For example, if your character wants to hit an opponent, you roll your character's strike dice and your opponent rolls their block dice. Scores are modified for any skills or other bonuses, highest score wins. If the attacker wins, the number of wounds inflicted is the difference between the two scores, modified for any bonuses from applicable skills such as strong, weak, delicate and tough. It's simple and elegant, but it gets better. If you roll a 1 on your roll-off, you have failed in spectacular style, but your character will learn from their mistake, gaining a fate point. If you roll a perfect score, the highest possible outcome with your dice, then you have managed a critical success and you can add 7 to your result. And that is just utterly brilliant because, well, it just is. Imagine a slow, lumbering, powerful badger fighting a nimble mouse. The badger strikes with a d8, the mouse blocks with a d4. This perfectly reflects the disparity in strength. The badger is far more likely to roll a high number and is statistically likely to overpower the mouse. However, the mouse is fast and skillful. He can't match the badger in brute strength, but he has a 1 in 4 chance of a perfect defense compared to the badger's 1 in 8 chance of a perfect attack. That means there is no certain outcome, and the mouse can use its speed and cunning to outmatch a stronger foe. It's beautiful, cinematic, narrative-driven adventure condensed into a single opposed dice roll. Just brilliant. But I digress. A battle plays out in rounds, starting with an initiative phase in which the teams vie for control, and right off the bat, the game starts doing clever stuff. Each player picks one of their characters and rolls for initiative using that character's nimbleness value. The player who rolls highest wins, and they get the first activation of the round. But they must activate the character they used to make the initiative roll. From the very start, you have a decision to make. Do you use your most nimble character to make the initiative roll to improve your chances of going first? Or do you pick the character that you really want to move first, hoping the dice gods smile on you? That is excellent design. After the first character has activated, play passes to the other team, who activate one character before passing control back again, and this continues until all characters have activated once. However, it is possible for players to seize the initiative. To do this, they simply spend a fate point belonging to a character who hasn't activated in the current turn. That character then gets to activate immediately, breaking the alternating sequence. After the character has activated, play returns to the interrupted player. In this way, it is possible to activate several of your characters in quick succession, executing perfectly choreographed strategies and springing nefarious traps. But it's going to cost you in fate points. In first edition, an activated character could perform a single action from a list of 6. In second edition, they get 2 actions from a list of 11. It is possible to use the same action twice, but on the second use, any roll-offs are made with a -2 modifier to represent the exertion or concentration involved. And I am not going to go through every option here. It's a tabletop game, and drilling into the minutiae of every possible action would take hours. But the rules are packed with clever little flourishes that really are a delight. For example, when moving, a character can move up to a number of inches equal to the maximum value of their movement dice stat. So a character with a move of d8 could move up to 8 inches. However, if they enter difficult terrain, you must roll their movement dice if they are moving horizontally, or their nimbleness dice if they are moving vertically, and then subtract the distance already moved from the dice roll. The result is how much farther they can move with that action. I just think that's clever, and it really emphasises how small and nimble characters are going to be able to handle difficult terrain much more easily than their towering colleagues. Furthermore, a character can choose to barge. To do this, they roll their movement dice and then move up to that many inches directly towards a target. If they reach the target, they push it 2 inches. A fantastic way to remove sentries from rooftops. Charges work in exactly the same way, but instead of a push, the moving character gets to make a free attack. Attacking is a roll-off, strike versus block. Shooting is a roll-off, ranged versus nimbleness. Searching for a hidden enemy is a roll-off, awareness versus concealment. Casting a spell is a roll-off, using either fortitude or presence versus the fixed casting difficulty of the spell. It's all quick and intuitive, it just makes sense. Interestingly, all characters have 16 wounds and go out of action if they take a 17th wound. At first it does seem strange a mouse can take the same punishment as a hare or fox, but the mouse is going to pick up injuries much more quickly. Remember, you take wounds based on the difference between your defense roll and the aggressor's attack roll, so these smaller critters are likely to see larger differences and will pick up injuries more rapidly. It ends up working really well, especially as when they pick up wounds, characters become less efficient, gaining negative modifiers on all of their dice rolls. Wounds are therefore more debilitating to smaller creatures that use the lower value dice. Winning a game can involve routing your opponent, achievable if they fail a fortitude test caused by losing at least 50% of their team. However, each scenario also has a main objective that defines winning conditions. Furthermore, each team will also generate a random side quest. While completing side quests won't secure victory, they will earn other rewards such as experience points and pennies. When the hurly-burly's done, when the battle's lost and won, each player will go through a post-battle phase, totting up loot, allocating experience points and spending them on advancements, rolling on recovery tables for characters that were injured, performing off-duty tasks such as training, labouring or wandering in the wilderness, hiring new recruits, trading and paying upkeep costs. And it all just works. There is nothing exceptional in the campaign system, nothing particularly groundbreaking, but it is dense, so much more comprehensive than it was in the first edition. There is something joyous about coming back from war and wandering into the wilds where you stumble across an evil barrow and are robbed blind by the ghost of a master thief. Or, alternatively, travelling the hills and farmsteads of your home county where you visit a welcoming hamlet that gives you some coins and food. Everything here intertwines wonderfully, creating a real lived-in world of cosy meals by the crackling fire and dangerous adventures in mist-shrouded woods. A world you want to visit. So, what's my conclusion? How do I rate this game, and specifically, this new edition? At the top of the video, I mentioned I hadn't played Burrows and Badgers for a little while. Having read through the revised 2nd edition rules and fished out my miniatures, including some that have been waiting for a lick of paint for quite some time, I am excited about it all over again. The new rules are more expansive, offering more versatility and flexibility, while still keeping to the spirit of the original compact design that I fell in love with. The combat rules are still sleek, fast and fun, while introducing more options, and ironing out some oddities like the fate points. Meanwhile, the new campaign rules offer so many options, more skills, upgrades, items, spells and scenarios. So yes, you bet I'm excited to return to Northymbra. After all, there are witches to hunt. And that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.